To me, the most important part of any ride is my pre-ride checklist. So today, I'm gonna be walking you through the 5 things that I check before every single ride to make sure that I'm gonna have the best time possible out there on the trail. Whether you're new to mountain biking or you've been riding for years, these quick tips will hopefully save you a few headaches and keep your bike running smooth. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that I like to check before every single ride is my tire pressure. Now, my rationale for this is that if everything goes well out there on the trail, your tires are your only point of contact between the bike and the ground, which makes them truly your first form of suspension. Other parts of your bike could come in contact with the ground if you crash, but let's hope that that doesn't happen. Now, in addition to tire pressure, it's really good to know where your tire casings are at. So on this bike, I have downhill casing in the rear, double down in the front, and those tire casings in combination with the tire pressure is really going to impact how your bike performs out there on the trail. Now, to check the tire pressures, I strongly recommend using a digital gauge like this one. This is the Topeak D2X. I've had this for many, many years now. I've gone through many, many batteries on this thing. I use it every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and it works really well. Personally, I use a pretty old and clapped out floor pump, so I can't trust the gauge on there. If you have a really nice floor pump, perhaps the gauge is reliable enough, but consistency is key here so you know how your bike is going to feel. So yeah, that's my first step of any ride. And an additional little side note on tire pressure is that if you live in a place with a lot of temperature fluctuation, this is something that I'd really recommend checking even multiple times throughout the day if you're going out for a big day on the bike. For instance, I live in southern Utah, and in the wintertime, it starts out like 32 degrees Fahrenheit in the mornings and will go up to sometimes anywhere from like mid 50s to 60 degrees. And when your bike is sitting in the sun in the back of the truck while you're going from spot to spot or however your ride is formatted, the tire pressure is going to change by a few PSI there. So I really recommend checking throughout the day as well if you're really wanting to nerd out and make sure that your bike is performing its best. And then the second thing is just making sure that those brake pads are hitting well. So I got a little hill in the driveway here. I just like to ride down it quickly, hit the brakes, make sure they're not squealing, make sure nothing got contaminated. In my experience, it's really bad to find that out at the trailhead. It's better to find out that something got on your rotors or whatever when you're actually still at the house, because hopefully you'll have a chance to fix it. So that's kind of my process. I like to make sure that the brake pads are working well and that the lever throw is exactly how I want it. And with the combination of those two things, I'm able to go out and ride very confidently. Now, the third thing that I like to check before every single ride is just to see how lubed my chain is. I don't have some strict schedule that I stick to for this. I kind of just go off a feel. So for instance, like on this Nebo Peak, last time I rode it, I could tell by the end of the ride that the chain was getting pretty dry and was gonna need some love. So before I head out on this bike again, I'm gonna give the chain a little bit of lube, and that way I know it's gonna be working as best it can before the next ride. But I don't have some strict schedule I stick to for this. I kind of just go off a feel. Here's some of the lubes I use. This is a Muck Off dry lube. Then this is a slightly nicer one. This is a smooth universal chain lube. So I'm not partial to any specific chain lube. I kind of just use whatever I'm feeling or whatever I see other mechanics recommending or get recommendations from friends. So that's kind of my process with lubing my chain, but it's super important. Having a dry chain is just not super fun in my experience, especially on the e-bikes and living out here in southern Utah. We get a lot of dust on the drivetrain. It just makes your bike sound like crap. It's not going to shift very well. So lubing your chain is super important. So the fourth thing that I like to check before every single ride, and the last thing that I actually check on the bike, is I like to just do a general bolt check. So for instance, got a 5mm here. I'll just go around, check some of the main bolts. So we just got these little pivot bolts. I don't typically do this with a torque wrench. I just kind of go off a feel. Just want to make sure that nothing is critically loose. But yeah, this will save you over time. It might seem a touch overkill, but it's really not fun when you have to hobble your bike back to the car because something came loose, you didn't have a multi-tool on you or something like that. It's just never fun ending a ride because of a mechanical issue on your bike, and doing a general bolt check is a really great way to help prevent this. Additionally, every once in a while, it's just good to check your spokes, make sure that nothing is coming loose on the wheels. And yeah, all in all, this is a super important step. Borderline, this should have been the first thing that I recommended in this video, but the general bolt check, really, really important, and I can't recommend it enough to you guys. And now the fifth and final thing that I check before every single ride, which actually has nothing to do with the bike. It's all about gear. It's just a general quick checklist to make sure I have all my riding gear with me. I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever shown up to the trails, you don't have your shoes or you don't have your helmet, it really sucks having to drive home, drive back, especially if you're meeting up with buddies who are on a tight schedule or something. It's not fun. So really good to just do a quick pre-ride checklist of only your riding gear. So here, got shoes, especially important if you're running clipless pedals. Sometimes you can get away with running some other pair of shoes if you're on flats and you forget them, but helmet, also super key. Knee pads, make sure you got both of them. Got gloves here. There's one glove, there's the other glove. And then riding glasses, also really key. I'm thankful that I live pretty close to the trails that I ride on a daily basis. So most of the time I put on like my riding jersey and shorts at home, and then I'll just toss on like the knee pads, shoes, helmet and stuff like at the trailhead. So this is kind of my general quick little checklist. A few other like miscellaneous items that I like to make sure I have is like cycling computer and heart rate monitor, but those are pretty like niche specific things. So anyways, this is a great way to make sure that your rides are going to go smoothly as well. Quick additional note on the riding gear here. If you'd like to see more detailed information about all the gear that I use riding on a day-to-day basis, I made a full video breaking down all the gear that I use last week, which will be linked down in the description. So there we have it, the top 5 things that I check before every single ride to make sure that I'm gonna have the best time out there on the trail. If there's anything you think I missed, please let me know down in the comment section below, and we'll see you next week for another upload. Peace.